Hello. I would like to take the time to introduce myself to the representatives of Maritime Facilities Management. My name is Terry Taplin and I am an employee of Asset Management Consultants. We are a multidisciplinary, blue-chip organisation and our company has been appointed to advise on asset management of the University of Greenwich's new School of Architecture, Design and Construction. Time has been allocated within this presentation to allow for the reading and absorbing of the visual information provided. Slide 2 illustrates the location of the new development, which is on a UNESCO World Heritage Site within a conservation, residential and commercial area at Stockwell Street in Greenwich. The site was acquired by the University of Greenwich in 2009 for £10 million, and as you are aware, the practical completion of this development is scheduled for July 2014 by the principal contractor Jeffrey Osborne Limited under an amended JCT traditional contract. Occupation, of course, is due in late August of this year in order to enable students to commence their studies in mid-September. From the initial proposal and acquisition of land, this historic site has undergone a significant transformation, which aims to meet the needs of university staff and students, as well as creating leisure areas and public spaces. This project also strives for BREEAM excellence, and the design has incorporated 20% of renewable energy resources. Provision has been made within the 15,000 square metres of floor space for a new academic building, lecture theatres, library, exhibition space, TV studios, cafe, retail spaces and other facilities. The provision of facilities management for the new school will become the responsibility of the Maritime Facilities Management personnel. Therefore, Asset Management Consultancy will identify and analyse the key project stakeholders involved in both the delivery and dwell stages of the project. The aim of this presentation is to cover stakeholder management and will therefore focus on an analysis of the project stakeholders when applied to the Stockwell Street development. It will also prioritise the stakeholders and establish a suitable communication strategy to mitigate any risks of negative impact on the project's success. Achieving an accurate analysis will require looking at where we are now and where we want to be in September 2014. The purpose of the objectives is to provide details of the stages involved in identifying who the key stakeholders are, and following these stages will enable suitable communication strategies to be established and applied. For your information, I would now like to give you a definition of what a project stakeholder actually is, and a very good one has been provided by Turner. A project stakeholder is a person or group of people who have a vested interest in the success of a project and the environment within which the project operates. This classification has been created as a visual aid to assist in the concept of stakeholder analysis. As you can see, the initial classification places the stakeholders into two categories: internal and external. According to Graham Winch, who is a professor of project management, internal stakeholders are, and I quote, in legal contract with the client, and external stakeholders, and I quote, have a direct interest in the project. The internal stakeholders can further be divided into demand and supply, and the external stakeholders can be divided into private and public. It is important to consider all the stakeholders involved in the Stockwell Street development. You can see here that we have categorised the stakeholders prior to mapping their interest in the project and analysing their power times interest on project success. It is obvious that these lists are far from comprehensive, as the stakeholders' power and interest may increase or diminish. Therefore, their potential impact on project success can change throughout the project duration. For example, at the present stage, the principal contractor, Osborne Limited, has a significant interest in ensuring that the project reaches practical completion and is ready for the fit-out contract to commence. The level of interest, however, will change. For example, at the handover stage of this project, Osborne's interest will shift from the delivery to the dwell stage. At this stage, Osborne's power will reduce, although they will retain an interest due to the contracted 12-month defect liability period. The next step in the process of establishing the key stakeholders is to map their interest in the Stockwell Street development. And this has been achieved by employing the following mapping technique. It is necessary to identify the perceptions of stakeholders regarding the Stockwell Street development in order to map their interest in the asset. This is important as stakeholders may be either opponents or proponents and potentially cause problems or provide solutions. This process includes understanding the stakeholders' needs, influence, interest, contributions and rights regarding this project. Once the perceptions of the stakeholders have been identified, the next step is to analyse the potential impact on project success. For this, the method and tool employed is a power times interest matrix, and an example has been provided. Here you can see that once you have identified the perceived interests of the stakeholders, the matrix can be used as a tool to determine the level of mitigation required. Applying the matrix contributed to the task of grouping and placing stakeholders in order of priority, and thereby enabling a suitable communication strategy to be formed. As you can see, at the delivery stage of the project, the stakeholders with high power and a high interest fall into Group A. This group will need to be managed closely, as their ability to affect the success of this project is significant. The stakeholders with high power and low interest will need to be kept satisfied. For example, if this group was to become dissatisfied and their level of interest increase, their status could change to that of Group A. This will require a corresponding need to be managed closely. Group D and C do not require such a high level of input, although they will require minimal effort and to be kept informed in order to maintain equilibrium within the project. Here is a list of the key stakeholders that have been identified and categorised into Group A. The relevance of including these stakeholders in this group is that they have a direct impact on the project's success and will therefore need to be managed closely through consultation and communication. The University of Greenwich Court of Governors are key stakeholders, as they are essentially representatives of the client and will have high power and high influence at all stages of this project. The steering group are key stakeholders who act in a position of overseeing and guiding the actions of the project at a strategic level. The architect, lead consultant, is a key stakeholder, as they will issue a list of defects that will need to be dealt with by the principal contractor to ensure successful handover of the Stockwell Street development project. They are also responsible for issuing the practical completion certificate. The date recorded on the certificate is the date on which the 12-month defects liability period begins. The fit-out contractors are key stakeholders who will be responsible for working collaboratively with the principal contractor. Due to the principal contractor falling behind with the scheduled programme, it is evident that collaboration will be necessary to ensure the Stockwell Street development is ready for occupation on the set target date. The Fire Safety Officer is a key stakeholder, as he is responsible for ensuring the Stockwell Street development complies with all current fire safety regulations. This is of considerable importance as the fire safety measures will need to be in place for building control approval. The principal contractor is a key stakeholder because they have contractual responsibility for reaching the project completion within budget and by the target date set. It is important for the principal contractor to complete on schedule, as the fit-out contractor will need to commence and complete to ensure the project is ready for the end user occupation in September 2014. The project manager and contract administrator are both key stakeholders whose roles are fundamental to the successful completion of the project. The project manager's responsibilities include the identification and management of project risks. One of the main risks facing the Stockwell Street development project is the potential of failing to complete on time. Project managers are also responsible for monitoring performance and keeping all parties informed. The contract administrator is a key stakeholder and is empowered by the contract. They have a responsibility for issuing instructions and information to the principal contractor, as required by the contract. As mentioned, the principal contractor is contracted to deliver the practical completion of the Stockwell Street development on target. Therefore, concise, clear information and instructions are required to ensure contract compliance. The CDM coordinator at this stage of the Stockwell Street development is a key stakeholder and is important as he is responsible for preparing the health and safety file and ensuring it is up to date prior to the handover. They are also responsible for enabling good communication between client and contractors. At this stage, the importance of good communication cannot be overemphasised if the project is to reach the scheduled completion date. Building control is a key stakeholder as they are required to issue a building regulation completion certificate. And I quote, "In accordance with Regulation 38, Fire Safety Information of the Building Regulations 2010, ensure that the building control is in receipt of a complete description of the fire safety measures. The absence of this information can be used as a reason for the building regulation completion certificate to be withheld." The University of Greenwich Facilities Management are key stakeholders as they will require comprehensive information regarding the Stockwell Street development, building and operation. This will contribute to ensuring that the handover, including the soft landings process and end user dwell stage, is successful. This category of stakeholders are in the Keep Satisfied group. It was determined for a combination of mapping their interest in the asset and applying the stakeholder matrix that although this group has higher power, they have a low interest in the project at the present stage. This category of stakeholders are in the Keep Informed group. It was once again determined for a combination of mapping their interest in the asset and applying the stakeholder matrix that although this group has a high interest, they have relatively low power. This therefore reduces their ability to have a negative impact on the project's success at the present stage. The final category of stakeholders are in the minimal effort group. This was again determined through a combination of mapping their interest in the asset and applying the stakeholder matrix. This group not only has a low interest in the project, They also have relatively low power. Therefore, at the present stage, this group only require a minimal effort to ensure that they remain within this category. The next stage is establishing a suitable communication strategy for the identified groups. This process consists of ensuring that the communication is specific with clear objectives and goals. It requires developing a communication plan or strategy. It is necessary to identify the participants in the communication process and to establish what information needs to be communicated and to whom. Identification of the frequency of communication will need to be established. Example, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or as identified or as required. It only remains then to decide on the information distribution method and to appoint who is to deliver the information. Finally, it is recommended that maritime facilities management adopt these communication strategies as they will assist in the mitigation process. However, as the power and interest of the stakeholders is subject to change throughout the duration of the project, the communication strategy will need to be reviewed and adjusted accordingly. These strategies will contribute to the avoidance of any potential negative impacts in both the delivery and the dwell stages of the Stockwell Street development project. I would like to thank you on behalf of Asset Management Consultants, and should you have any queries regarding the information provided within this presentation, please feel free to contact me.